Good morning. Good afternoon, I should say. It feels like morning after everything we've been doing and hustling and bustling, but good afternoon. It's 1. How you guys feeling?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm feeling great.
Great. Awesome.
Absolutely average, yeah.
Absolutely average.
I want to go home now.
Oh, well, hopefully you're leaving tonight.
Tonight, yes.
Okay, great. There we go. I will let them do a little intro for themselves, but before, just because this is the hot or not trend panel, I want to take an audience poll of what you think about Sunday Bloody Marys. Hot or not? Raise your hand.
There you go.
Okay, I'm on the no train for that, but good to know, so we know afterwards. But I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves a little bit, and then we'll jump into the questions.
I'll start us off. Jason Caldwell, VP of the Midwest. I've been in the music video game at Vevo for about 13 years, prior at MTV, so approaching 2 decades of living within the music video.
In the music video.
That's right.
It's very meta.
Taking a little extra credit for myself.
I see that. Adam Bergman. I run all of advertising and all of data licensing for VIZIO, so hardware manufacturer turned platform and entertainment business.
Zach Alter. Hello. Zach Alter, I lead West Coast sales at Trusted Media Brands. We own about 10 properties across social, streaming, digital, and print, all powered by community-driven content. Fun buzzword, write it down.
Thank you.
Wait. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Ashley Cartwright. I work at the Walt Disney Company as Vice President of Media, and it's been a blast working for the mouse. So we'll get into your hot or not. I made them little cards, you guys, because I'm a camp counselor, and I thought it'd be fun, hot or not. So we'll start with something light, like Mexican food, hot or not?
Hot.
Yep, okay, good. I allow that. Barbecue food, hot or not? Okay, good. Texas sun, heat. How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, I don't have an X.
I guess it depends what time of year we're talking about.
But it was hot.
Like
The
in
X
3 or 4
fell off,
months,
you guys.
definitely an X.
Whatever this is delightful.
This works.
Perfect temperature. Okay, let's get into the real stuff. So, how do you and your brands determine what is hot or not? What's trendy? Do you have a resource, a tool, your resident TikToker? How do you guys land on that?
You going, bro?
I'll open. So we are a streaming platform, right? We are content distributors for amazing partners like the Mouse, as well as incredible production houses. So for us, hot or not is one. Let's start with just what's happening in the marketplace. What apps are people using? What types of content are they using in our free television service? What channels are they watching? So we have an editorial team that is keeping track of what's happening in the market. Is it Oscar season? Is it award season? How do you go about that? We then also take a data perspective. So VIZIO collects opted-in TV viewership data from our customers on what they're watching. We recognize the ads they've seen, the shows they've watched, the movies they've seen. So we can then take that data to turn around and inform programming decisions. So when you turn on your smart television, you are getting a relevant contextual environment full of recent releases, hot shows, etc.
You know, I think for us, from a music video standpoint, what's hot is, honestly, it's very evident. You see what's going to be able to pop through the pop culture conversation, whether it was Miley with Flowers, whether it was Taylor with Anti-Hero, whether it was Harry Styles with As It Was. I mean, it becomes part of that social conversation very quickly. I think the other part of it we're starting to do a really good job with is really understand the velocity of viewership as well, whether that's in a certain time frame to understand, like, who is coming up that's going to be the next thing. Like Doja Cat was that for Once Upon a Time, where you're like, okay, we see the trend coming and we're identifying those artists that are going to be the next big thing as well. And then I think on the video landscape, we're very focused with what we do is owning an IP and distributing that content, understanding what are the viewing patterns that are evolving with the marketplace, very much like what VIZIO is doing and leading the way with, and then understand, okay, how do we take this content set and make it win with that environment, not only for our artists, for our audiences and advertisers as well.
I'm just watching her eat what looks like to be the most delicious chocolate chip cookie I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the chocolate is oozing out of that thing like you would not believe. I heard everything you said, though.
Easily distractible.
We Trusted Media Brands, about 18 months ago, bought a company called Juke and Media, and our business was built on user-generated videos. So we have a team, sits across the world every day, and finds and acquires the best user-generated videos. We have a website called Taste of Home that has 12,000 new recipes created by home chefs every year. our audience is our barometer. So we have our audience and our community of 350,000 creators. So we're utilizing, not dissimilar to what Jason said, social velocity to understand what kind of content are people creating, what kind of content are people consuming, and we use that to make decisions.
With all that insight and all those resources, can you share something that you see as a trend coming up in this year or next? You named a couple of the past, but what do you predict?
I mean, to start from the content side again, and not to be so overly simplistic with it, I mean, music videos as an art form has been a platform for them to really focus on visual storytelling, and what's the conversation of the day, right? So you're seeing them using this platform a lot now, talking about identity, inclusion, community, the way that they see the world, influencing dance, fashion, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of a trend going forward, I think the evolution of what we're doing within the video landscape right now is really interesting. I mean, we just talked a second about fast. I think we're still early innings in that. And how is that going to mature and turn into, I think, a marketplace that all of us are trying to lean a little bit further in? And what we'll get into a little bit, how does that fit within the larger broadcast television landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I'll lean right into multicultural and diverse programming, right? Like, we are fortunate. Yes, VIZIO owns a free streaming service, and we produce our own branded content. But we also have the unbelievable luxury to leverage and promote content like People Are Awesome, like Vevo, like Andor from Disney Plus. Not everybody has an Andor, right? Not everybody has top IP. For us, it's really about VIZIO sells televisions to every race, color, and creed. So how do we go out and produce? We've built some amazing partnerships like Polaris and Group Black that are working with us to produce really authentic content for the African American community. We're working with Reverie to talk about how do we produce content that is really unique to the LGBTQIA community. We're building out partnerships like that to say, we have this amazing vehicle. How do we help enable and empower voices that really are representative of who our customer base is? Because that's for us, when we look in the mirror, we see who our customers are, and then we see the programming, and we want to be sure that there's no disconnect there.
I think it's IP. Like, it's not a new trend, but I think as a publisher or as a brand, like if you look at the release schedule for any major studio over the next, 2 years, what percentage of the titles are existing IP that they're finding new ways? You look at Mr. Beast having a burger. You look at like all these different ways that both brands, media companies are leveraging IP on new platforms in new ways. I think, especially in a world where economic conditions are uncertain, if you can go back to the well and leverage your IP over and over, that's I think that's a formula that is proven.
Yeah. What was the top show during the pandemic? Top streaming show was The Office, right? And I always joke, right? There's this like funny way of people saying it. They don't ask, "Did you watch The Office?" They say, "Do you?" As if it's this like endless cycle you just watch over and over again, right? And so to your point, it's like streaming and what's hot is, well, how do you sort of capture the moment? I would say broadly, I would love your take on this, like producing feel-good content, right? The streaming community, like for years there, everything was so hard and racy and tough. And then Ted Lasso sort of captured this moment. You're like, finally something light and airy, but that makes me feel good. I think we're going to see another spin back to that of everything doesn't have to be like so cutting edge. I think that's going to be a big topic this year.
Shrinking is that. If anyone
It's
needs
amazing.
a
I
good
love Shrinking.
Hot for shrinking?
It's so good.
Yeah.
Shrinking is Ted Lasso, but
Shrinks.
Jason Segel.
Yes.
I would say the other thing, I don't remember what I was going to say. No, forgot.
Well,
it.
I'll jump in on the nostalgia piece because I
Nailed
think that's a big thing. It's like, yes, you're putting a new investment into IP, but what you can get out of the well, I think, is huge there as well. I mean, this is what we live and breathe. I mean, the nostalgia around music videos is incredible. I mean, you're talking about a content set from the 80s that's watched 8 billion times last year. Like, that's the piece that you need to be able to complement with what you're adding new freshly every month and week, et cetera.
We own Reader's Digest. It celebrated its 100th year last year.
You made it in there.
did.
We all owe
Way
him
to land that,
$5
dude.
from
We knew you were
shouting
gonna
Reader's
do it.
Digest.
That's on
knew
the
you-
bingo card somewhere. Reader's Digest, Reader's Digest. But that's a 100-year-old brand. That's $15 each. And it's a brand that, everyone has a story. That I remember Reader's Digest on my, coming in the mail or on my grandmother's countertop or whatever. We have started through now this sort of combined company, we've started to put our user-generated content on the Reader's Digest social channels. That is IP. That is our IP. We own that content, and it has reinvigorated the social channel for that brand. We built a streaming channel called At Home with Family Handyman, which was built out of a Family Handyman is a digital and print property that's been around 60 years, and we built a streaming channel out of it. So again, leveraging existing IP to meet a significantly more fragmented consumer base is important. Disney does that well.
I just work there, but thank you. You're totally right about the IP and you're going to go back to the well to refresh it or remix it, and then you mock it with shows like Reboot, which are literally saying, why are we remaking something? But then you have the opportunity to continue to deliver to that audience, which I think allows you to be a little bit more flexible and adventurous when you try to put out new content or products. But with that said, when you're looking to find those trends from a social media standpoint, because that is where trends literally derive from most of the time, do you use those platforms? How do you use them? Like, what kind of impact do they have for your brands and your partners?
From a social standpoint, I think music videos and social media, social platforms have had this intimate relationship forever. I mean, you can go back to 2008, Beyonce Single Ladies, right? And what happened from that music video extending into those other platforms. We saw it with Adele and Hello, but now you're starting to also see the inverse, where you see like Drake with Tootsie Slide take a TikTok dance and apply it. I talked about Doja Cat earlier. She's taking all these different social media trends and reinforcing it within her music video content. So for us, it's just this really interesting thing where like the culture creation of music video reverberates in these other different places, but yet the artists are very attuned to what's happening there and how do I visually communicate that and attach that to my music as well. So I've never seen sort of a content set that's had just this intimate relationship for the long period that it's had.
It's like Rihanna concert, which out
Dude,
football before it.
100%.
And everyone does the dance now on TikTok.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
I said it earlier, user-generated video sourced from social across the world is a lifeblood to a large part of our business. So that's sort of the best example I can get, is that we are constantly mining social for what people are creating. In the early days of COVID, we could identify like the types of videos. It was like stages of grief. I swear, it was like the first week was videos of people at the store and the toilet paper's gone, and then it was trick shots in backyards, and then it was remote learning, and you could sort of see these spikes, and we utilized that to determine which content we would try to find more of, how we would program our channels, how we'd work with partners. So yeah, it's sort of germane to our business. I said germane, that wasn't on the thing, but that should be somewhere on somebody's business.
Check, germane.
Taking my $5 back. That's
Broadcast television, hot or not? No, I'm just kidding. I would never ever do it. It is very hot. So it's a matter of where, right? It's expanding. It's not where it traditionally is. It's fast channels, it's streaming, it's all of that. And so on that topic, like, how do you see that shift moving forward? Fast channels, what's next? Like, is it all going to combust and then become one platform with
Bundles.
everything on it? Like, what? Like, now we got every streaming platform, and you're back to paying over what you paid for cable. And so, like, what do you do?
I see a world where the device manufacturers are going to build platforms built into the TVs.
I mean, if only. Yeah. I mean, so second most sold television in the country, 70%.
Okay, brag, it's fine.
70% of TVs do not have a cable or satellite box hooked up to them. So, what is prime time? We're still sitting on the couch the same hours of the day, but we're seeking out content differently, right? To your point, like, what is fall premieres? We're sitting here like in the face of another upfront cycle. An upfront cycle was built out of operational efficiency. Let's just get a bunch of negotiations done in a small period of time. Many networks have said, I don't know when our last fall premiere season is, but it's coming. You don't have to sit on a great piece of IP and wait for the third week of September anymore to go reach your audience. I would put it a different way. I think it's more thinking about how you take a specific piece of content and go to your audience. Jerry Seinfeld said this not long ago when he was talking about streaming and comedy. He said, great for my business, bad for my art. Great for my business because everyone can get a piece of content out there, but are we still generating the best quality content? No matter what, there's 1,001 streaming titles that are forgettable. And there's also streaming titles, or just titles that happen to be available on streaming, that have changed our life forever, right? Ted Lasso, again, is one of those where you're like, this was lightning in a bottle, right? Everything y'all have done with your franchises, you're like, this has changed entertainment. Plug.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we have to break down what we call television, what we call live programming, and just say, I have a great piece of content and I now have an amazing vehicle to get it directly to the person who I know loves it.
So to add 2 cents in that, I think from a hot or not perspective, I think it's still very warm. I mean, we've been talking about the demise of traditional television for almost 2 decades now, and obviously there's been total erosion within some of those broadcast primetime windows. However, listen, NFL just had probably its best year from a viewership standpoint. When you look at the Grammys, they finally stabilized. We'll see what the Oscars does tonight. So there's still an application where we all are going to have to live together in this world together. But I think what we're really missing and what's going to help all this, and to what we were just talking about from a content perspective, the hurdles that we put on ourselves about having a common currency that we can all activate against, whether it's platform, publisher, traditional television, that is something that I think as an industry we've got to rally behind, because that is what's making, I think, some of the share shift a little bit harder, is to understand how am I making my apples to apples comparison, because we've seen obviously investment move from traditional television into our partners within that upfront structure, but what makes it more challenging is because some of that measurement and the investment's not matching the kind of evolution and fragmentation and democratization of viewership, but there's more to happen there. But to say that it's the end of traditional television, I just think that we're not there yet. There's still plenty of utility within that space as well.
Yes. I mean, yeah. Chris Rock went live on Netflix. Is that TV? Is it streaming? What is it? And Netflix was sort of, I think, probably feels like maybe the slowest to get to live programming, right? Like, I guess Disney Plus maybe doesn't have a ton, but Peacock and Prime Video certainly with the NFL, Peacock with Premier League and a million other things. But so yeah, I just think it's a change in I don't know. Measurement's going to be important.
Yeah, and it's you guys said it well. It's just content. Like, it doesn't have to be traditional television or streaming television or on your phone television. It's just content. And
we are so unbelievably obstructed by our own legacy. That's all it is, right? And even currency, I'm like doing everything I can not to dive all over that, but like,
it's the next question. Cryptocurrency, Web3,
all right,
AI, hot or not?
Who cares?
Sorry. Here to stay?
Yes,
Web3?
Here to stay. I mean, in the most simplest form, Web3 is a decentralized internet. Raise your hand if you think the internet works pretty well right now.
Pretty well.
So like,
that was the most mediocre. So not good enough.
Right. So there's sort of this concept of like decentralized for who and who cares. Now, if you get into like Web3, you get into crypto and NFTs, like there is absolutely a better way to create deeper customer engagement. I think we just have to be really clear about who it's for. The average customer probably thinks the internet works fine. They can go to the websites they want, read the articles they want. I'm not saying the internet isn't like a putrid place of hate. Of course it is. But like for the most part, like it works, right? The average consumer isn't like, God, I really wish we could decentralize the internet. You know what I mean? Like that's not the average person. So we just have to be honest with ourselves about what it's for, right? So crypto is an unbelievable asset. It's an unbelievable piece of something that we just don't know what to do with yet. But like, I don't know, buy a grand worth of Ethereum and hang on for the ride. I don't know.
It's not a fun ride. I've been on it.
Yeah.
I go back to IP. I don't know anything about Web3 and cryptocurrency, but NFTs I know a thing or two. But I think that's where IP. It's another way for companies with great IP to connect to their audiences. So I think there's branding value in parts of that I understand.
And just to add to the NFT side of it, I think from a music standpoint and artist standpoint, the relationship between fan and artist, there's a ton to unpack and be part of that. Obviously, you're seeing people experiment with it, but what it's ultimately going to become, I think, who the hell knows? More to come on that front.
I think it'll be an interesting space, especially for larger brands and franchises to create that loyalty. So we'll see. That is enough of me asking you questions. Anyone else out there have any questions? Hot seat, pressing, excitable thoughts? No? Everyone just wants a mimosa. Okay.
I know there's some questions out here because I've seen you talking to each other. So
don't be shy. It's just us.
Otherwise, we're going to ask Ashley questions.
Yeah, exactly. Any parting thoughts from the panel then?
Yeah. Are we going to, come on. All right.
Fine, let's go.
The ultimate production studio. to like totally dilute Disney's value. A production studio. What is hot? When you are sitting there saying, I have a responsibility to promote some of the greatest content, the greatest library, the greatest net new, how do you go out and say, I believe this is what consumers want now, and I'm going to tell a marketing story around it?
Wow. Okay. I like to break the rules a lot at Disney. I came from 20th Century Fox, and so it is a very different legal game there. But it is truly just pushing the boundaries of what Disney can do as a brand, now having this broader adult content on the 20th century side. So it's kind of just like poking the bear, like, all right, we've got rated R White Man Can't Jump coming out. How explicit can we get with our targeting for some of these rap videos, you know? And of course, before Cardi B, no way. There's no way anything Disney will be in front of Cardi B. But it's exploratory. And I think it's also going back to loyalty and how you build that fan base. And so I think NFTs and that Web3 world will become really important, because you think Disneyland isn't a magical place, but what about a Disney metaverse? You can go in there, and that is where the kids are going to go. Like, our internet was groundbreaking to us when we got it, and so maybe we're just old, and it's coming up for the youngins, but I think that is kind of the two things of like breaking the rules, seeing how far you can push it, and then staying on top of what the future is going to be. This is not my pet.
Great
I'm
answer.
supposed to be
Great
asking
answer.
you questions.
Well
Nailed it.
done.
Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to us. It's been a pleasure having you guys up on this stage. It's the perfect weather to get a mimosa. Let's go.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, give these guys a round of applause.